Hello, everybody, and welcome to our channel. I'm Mark.
And I'm Rob.
And today we're going to talk about some more delusional comments by Sue Bird and Jemele Hill about Cailin Clark's college career. So, hey, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. Hit the notification bell when you do.
Hey.
Get notified of our next videos. We went over 5,000 subscribers about a week ago, and we're going for 6,000, and we need your help. We're going for 10,000, but hey, one step at a time.
Yeah.
So, Rob, as we know, there's a UConn mafia out there, and they always stick together. So, Sue Bird, Maya Moore is not really involved in the discussion, but Breanna Stewart, Donna Taurasi, they all say how great they are because they won championships, even though they gloss over the fact that they all played with more players that made the WNBA than anyone else in history. For instance, Breanna Stewart played with 12, and let's see, it was like, oh yeah, okay. And let's see, Breanna was 12, and Donna Taurasi played with 8. So they had stacked teams. Donna Taurasi, when she won her first championship, because she won them by herself, she said, I won 3 championships. She wasn't even the best player in the team. Sue Bird was. And when Sue Bird won her championship, she had Donna Taurasi, and other players that made the WNBA. So they, of course, forget about that. In fact, and back then, Connecticut got almost all the 5-star recruits. So, of course, they were going to win the championship. Now it's more spread out. So it's harder to do that. So, and you notice Connecticut hasn't won it since 2016. So I'll get into these comments there, Robin. You let me know what you think of their comments in terms of Cailin Clark's college career. They're always trying to minimize her because they're always trying to promote how great the Connecticut players are.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. And this goes back to they first referenced when they asked Breanna Stewart. This was asked by a reporter, Nicole Arbach. She said, does Cailin Clark need a championship to be considered one of the greats in women's college basketball history? Let me stop right there because, to be fair to Breanna Stewart, I'm not sure she understands the nuances of that question. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I'm right about this, but I put a lot of thought into this because I have a whole website called ultimaterankings.com into GOAT discussions and stuff like that. So in my take, and Christine Brennan agreed with me because she criticized Breanna Stewart's answer also. Mm-hmm. When you say one of the greats, that could be 100 people.
That's such a random or just a vague statement to make.
So she didn't say the greats. She just said one of the greats. Okay. So now I think the next level after that is one of the GOATs, considered one of the GOATs, possible one of the GOATs. I think that you narrow that down to top 5 or top 10 question. Could she be considered that? Like in the discussion, if you're not in the top 5 or top 10, you're not really in the discussion. So I think most people would look at one of the GOATs as someone who would be in the top 5 or top 10. Then you can say the next level is, could she be considered the GOAT? The GOAT. The emphasis on the. Could she be considered the best player of all time in that particular sport, in that particular level? All right. So I'm not sure Breanna Stewart understood the difference between one of the GOATs and one of the greats. So
right. I think she, I don't know, either she got confused or didn't understand or.
Well, I don't think she understood the nuance of it. She's just determined to give the answer she was going to give. So I think she considered the question more like one of the GOATs. She was wrong even for that. But that's how she answered. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt about she didn't really get the clarification there about one of the GOATs. But what she said was, no, she can't, because at the end of the day, you go back and look at the championships that you might have won in college, blah, blah, blah. And look at me, I won 4. Okay. And we just went over all the advantages that she had. Okay. So that was the basis of this discussion to begin with. And so this all started, of course, the same concept started with Jay Williams, who's, I don't even consider her great yet. And everybody said, you're an idiot. She's obviously great. Now you can argue about whether she's the GOAT or not. And everybody disagreed with Jay Williams on that one. So I won't get into that. So Jemele Hill starts out by saying, Breanna Stewart won 4 national titles. So yes, she's allowed to have the opinion that you need to win in order to be in my group. Okay. That's not a controversial opinion. That's not a disrespect to Caitlin Clark. That is simply her opinion. And once again, ring talk is the most dominant conversation in men's sports. But suddenly, when it's in the field of women, it's about pettiness and jealousy. Okay. There's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah, there's a lot to decipher.
Let's do it one sentence at a time.
Okay.
So she's allowed to have the opinion that, first of all, anyone's allowed to have an opinion, regardless. Yeah. Whether I value your opinion is another story, but everyone's allowed to. That's a silly statement.
Yeah.
So you need to win in order to be in my group. Okay. So my group, I think, as we're talking about for purpose of this conversation, is one of the GOATs. We'll go with that. I disagree with her on that because just because she considers herself one of the GOATs or people consider her one of the GOATs doesn't mean that her opinion means anything more valuable than anybody else's opinion, right, in terms of whether someone should be in your group.
Yeah, like what because she's won these 4 championships and this and that, so that makes her opinion the gospel and that's it, and anybody else's opinion doesn't matter.
Right. So I would argue her opinion is less valuable because she's not objective, and it's clear she's not objective by the answer she gave. So I would put less value on her opinion. She's entitled to have it, but I would put less value on her opinion. So that's a silly argument. The whole sentence is wrong. Right. Let's start it. Let's go with her next sentence.
Yeah.
That's not a controversial opinion. That's not a disrespect to Caitlin Clark. Wrong. It is a controversial opinion for the reasons I just explained. It is a disrespect to Caitlin Clark because she is obviously one of the GOATs. She's a 2-time player of the year, and she dragged 2 mediocre teams to the national finals.
Right. She had less talent on her team. She put her team essentially for 4 years on her back, and yet she made it to the Final Fours. Junior, senior year, she brought the team up to. I don't think any. You take one like we talk about. You take those players, Breanna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, and put them on the Iowa team. Do you think they would have brought those teams to the Final Four?
I don't think any other player would have brought those 2 teams to the finals, Rob. Even Cheryl Miller. I don't think any other player could have done that. And that's why we made a whole video about this. And that's why I argued, especially the last 2 years where I think she played at a higher level than any player in the history of women's college basketball, you could argue she's the best player of all time because her last 2 years she was playing higher than anybody else. And you look at her whole 4 years, she was first team All-American by the Writers Association all 4 years, and she was a 2-time player of the year. So you can make that argument that she's the best player of all time in women's basketball. So Mark, say she's not in the conversation is just silly.
So, Mark, I could say, well, geez, Caitlin Clark's 2 times player of the year, so her opinion matters more than what you say. I mean, that's what you can just start doing. Like, she's player of the year. You only won championships. Big deal. But, hey, I don't know. Let's see. Championships, player of the year, you know.
Right. So, anyways, I'll go on. Then she said, and once again, ring talk is the most dominant conversation in men's sports. But suddenly when it's in the field of women, it's about pettiness and jealousy. Okay, so first of all, there was no talk about GOATs in men's basketball tied directly to national championships to a large degree before this came around in the discussion of women's. So that's not even true. The reason Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor at the time, is considered the GOAT in men's basketball is not the main reason anyways, is not because he won 3 championships. It's because they were 88-2, but also because he was 3-time player of the year when freshmen couldn't play. And he would have been 4-time player of the year from my understanding. And also he was 3-time MVP in the Final Four. So yes, he won the 3 championships. Of course, that was part of it. But the main reason he was a 3-time player of the year and MVP in the Final Four 3 times. And Rob, it's my understanding, and I'll tell you a little story because I read a book about him when I was younger, because that's how I started watching basketball, was because of Lou Alcindor. Mm-hmm. They said that the freshman team was better than the varsity when he was a freshman. So I don't know if that's true or that was the joke. The joke was that UCLA varsity, the year Lou Alcindor was a freshman, was the second best team in the nation. That's how good Lou Alcindor was.
I think we read the same book, Mark, about Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think I do remember reading something about like that.
Right. So that joke started. There might be some truth to it. I don't know how the scrimmages went between the varsity and the freshmen. All I know is there's a reason the joke existed. That's how good he was. And that's why people consider him the greatest men's basketball player of all time. The championships, yes, help in the argument. That's not the main reason. Okay, so that's completely false, what they're saying. And then there's all sorts of men, and I'm not even going to list them all, who didn't even make the Final Four, let alone win a championship, that are considered the GOATs in men's college basketball.
Right.
Now we're talking about college basketball.
Right.
So she said men's sports. She didn't clarify what I'm going to clarify right now. What happens in men's sports is, and again, I put more thought into this, more people, so maybe they're not aware of it, or maybe you can say I'm wrong, but at least I can give you my reasonings. The big GOAT conversation where they talk about the rings and put a lot of emphasis on it is not in men's sports in general. It's in men's basketball in the NBA. Right. That is the number one and most common discussion that exists having to do with championships. Men's basketball in the NBA. Okay. Not men's basketball in college and not men's sports in general.
Right.
Secondarily is the quarterback in the NFL. Quarterback in the NFL is not on the field as much as a basketball player is, and there's 22 players on the field instead of 10. So he does not have as much influence as a basketball player in the NBA or basketball in general, because basketball players play, 80% of the game instead of 40%.
Right, exactly.
So, but that's secondarily rings and Super Bowls in terms of championships. Yes, people put emphasis on that in men's sports in the NFL, not in college football. There's very little discussion about greatest of all time in college football.
Like you said, how long they're on the field compared to a basketball player. I mean, even I know playing basketball, you're up there. Even though sometimes you take a rest, you're out there almost most of the time. A lot of the time than quarterback.
Right. So in any other men's sports, either at the professional level, we're talking about team sports, of course,
right,
or in the college level, people aren't talking very much at all, almost no discussion about rings in terms of GOATs. They know in a baseball team, one person can't drag a team to a championship. They know that in hockey, once in a while, goal can get really hot, and sometimes they get credit for a little bit of that. And also in soccer, you need more players around you because you can't dominate at the same extent that the sport doesn't allow it. That's just the way it is. So she's completely wrong about that concept. So they should just turn that into a woman thing about, we're criticizing women for no reason. No, we're criticizing you because you changed the goalposts. Men weren't putting emphasis on championships for best player of all time in college basketball. You did that because you support all these UConn mafia people who keep claiming all the UConn people are the best players of all time.
And then Mark, this just came up. I've never heard of it during the whole. I mean, the NBA is 25 years, and then we didn't watch all the whole years, but I've never heard this kind of talk come up until Cailin Clark came into the league, and then they started comparing all these other the UConn players and everybody else, comparing her to Cailin Clark.
Right, and since you talked about the WNBA, if you want to talk about the GOAT in the WNBA, yes, championships is an argument. But people make that argument in the WNBA, which is fine. Again, right. I would put that tied for number one in sports discussions in terms of the importance of championships and GOAT discussions. Because it's just like the NBA. There's no difference between the WNBA and NBA other than the quality of play.
Big difference, yeah. Big difference.
So it's these people in the media and that went to Connecticut and other people that want to try to hold down Cailin Clark's popularity by trying to minimize her accomplishments and her ability as a basketball player by overemphasizing these stupid discussions about her not winning a national title.
Right.
So
and then to bring in, they always bring in that which they kind of project themselves. Oh, it's petty, and yeah, you guys are the petty ones. You're the ones who are petty. We're not the ones who are petty. You're the ones who are petty. You're
right.
It's like, come
exactly, on. Rob. So, anyways, I've discussed all this in previous videos along with Rob, and I can tell you that this emphasis on titles in college women's basketball is way, way overrated. And they're doing that now to try to minimize Cailin Clark. There's no other reason for that, because this discussion wasn't coming up before.
No, it wasn't.
Brianna Stewart has been called the greatest women's basketball player in college basketball, but she also was 3-time player of the year and 4-time MVP in the Final Four. So, okay, so you just have to be aware of that. That's one of the reasons why. Shara Miller made the finals 3 times. She won 2. She was 3-time player of the year. And as a freshman, as far as I can tell, she was the second best player in the country after Ann Donovan, who won player of the year. And she won a championship her freshman year. But she had help, just like I said. Right. So anyways, we all know about that. All right. So they went on, and she said, this is still Jemele Hill, we got to get smarter in this. They were talking about the coverage of the WNBA at this point. She said, we got to get smarter in this. This is my hope. Unfortunately, there were so many moments with the overall coverage. Oh, God, the stupid people won. No, you're the stupid person.
Stupid people. You're the freaking stupid people. Give me
Jemele Hill is the stupidest person commenting on sports today. Okay, she's number one. She's the poster child for stupid comments in sports right now, Rob.
Oh yeah, I mean, what? Like I just said, she brings up pettiness and all this kind of, and then she brings up what they are doing to one player who just came into the league to play basketball. They're bringing it up. No men are bringing this up. You know, they got the, like you said, the little mafia and the little. Well, we can't have her be the face of the WNBA. We're gonna have our crew, our 2 Live crew of the Connecticut and all South Carolina. You know, we can't have her be the one that is the face. She just came from Iowa. She didn't really do anything compared to our schools. She didn't win no championships.
Right. And then Bird said, and the issue is we don't have enough of the smart people, meaning the people that are tapped in, clued in, have research, have been covering the WNBA to offset that. Listen, Sue Bird's a smart person, but that doesn't mean she doesn't make stupid comments. It doesn't mean she's objective about her opinion about Cailin Clark. She's been selectively complimentary about Cailin Clark. Sometimes she's complimentary, and sometimes she does backhanded comments to her, Rob. Right. And her college career is one of them, because she wants a Connecticut player to be the greatest player of all time and not Cailin Clark because she went to Connecticut.
You know, we already talked about that. They're going to roll out the red carpet for Paige Beckers. I mean, it's already planned already. The red carpet's already rolled out for her when she enters the WNBA.
Right. And then Bird returned to the original topic later, adding, I just want to go back to the Brianna Stewart thing. In the world of women's basketball, 4 national championships is the standard. That's not the case for any other sport. So that is the bar. Okay, I don't believe it's the standard just because one person did it. She did it, but she did it with a stacked team. So it's not a standard. It's not an individual sport. It's not like she won 4 majors in a row in tennis or golf or won 38 majors in those sports in a career. So it's not even the same thing.
Yeah,
the men's don't have that because the men don't stay in college basketball 4 years anymore.
Yeah, standard. Not every team has a standard stacked, you know, of on a 12-person team, women's team. Out of that 12, 5 or 6 of them are 5-star or 4-star players. Not every team has that, so it's not standard.
Right. And then she went on. In another world, if you get to the national championship game twice, it's an amazing feat. By the way, it's an amazing feat. That's not to take away from what Cailin did, but it's not 4 championships in a row. Yes, it is. That's exactly why you said it, was to take away what Cailin Clark did. That's exactly why you said that. You're arguing the 4 championships in a row on a stacked team is better than dragging a mediocre team to the national finals 2 years in a row. That's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, come on. Yeah.
And in fact, Rob, if I say what Cailin Clark did, which I am making that argument, what she did was better than what any women did in college basketball history, drag those 2 mediocre teams to the national finals. If I said to you, that's not to take away from the Brianna Stewart's 4 championships, I'd be lying because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking away from Brianna Stewart's 4 national championships because if Cailin Clark went to Connecticut, she would have won 4 championships. Almost assuredly, she would have won 4 national championships. Not for sure because it's a single elimination tournament, but she would have won 4 national championships if she went to Connecticut.
Oh, most
so
definitely.
With ridiculousness.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. That's why, I mean, when you say standard, what do you mean by standard? Not everybody has the same standard as you do.
No. So again, I want to emphasize the reason that men talk about GOAT discussions and championships in the NBA and in the NFL is because they have 15 to 20-year careers to do it. Okay. And they can't just choose to go to a stacked blue chip college and really increase their chances of winning national championships.
Right.
Okay. So they get drafted and then, they can sign as a free agent later. But they have 15, 20. They don't have 4 years. They don't have 1 year like they do in men's basketball now anymore. Right. So there's a huge difference. That's why championships are a lot less important for rating a person's ability or legacy in college basketball than it is in the pros.
Right.
Same thing with football. They have a 4-year career, sometimes a 3-year career in college. And then they have quarterbacks now play 20 years. And notice that Tom Brady wasn't considered the GOAT by many people until he passed up Joe Montana's 4 Super Bowl rings.
Right.
Okay. And Joe Montana was considered the GOAT because he had 4 Super Bowl rings, even though Bart Starr already had 5 championships. He only had 2 Super Bowls. But still, either way, Joe Montana was a better passer than Bart Starr. So he was considered the GOAT. But now Tom Brady is because he's got 7 and he did it with 2 teams. But that's why. But it's important at that level, but they have long careers, Rob. That's why they're expected to win at least 1 Super Bowl. Like Dan Marino's, by most people, is not going to be in the top 5 or the top 3 because he has 0 Super Bowls. He went to 1 and lost. And he's a great passer. Don't get me. I'm not taking them away from him if you're a Dan Marino fan. Great passer. But he's not going to be in that conversation in most people's minds for that reason.
No, not at all. But I mean, going back to what you're talking about is that, so like you're saying, I mean, you want to, I see that they want to promote the women's game. That's fine. You're promoting women's game and you're trying to get more, get more views on it. But then you're doing it all the wrong way. You're throwing this out here. You have one of the greatest players right now in your league, yet you're not, you're trying to down her, to not even promote her or just, she's really good, but it's like no, she could be possibly one of the GOATs that you're talking about. But so to this, like, she had a great year and but compared to this person who has 4 and has, come on, you're not. What are you talking about? And
Rob, while we're on that topic, okay, so I made an argument in a previous video that you could make an argument that in order to analyze Candace Parker's career in college, you could raise it up a little bit based upon how successful she was in the WNBA her rookie year. Now, I'm not saying a lot, but the key is here, they don't even have an off season. She went straight to, they all go straight from basically the Final Four.
Right.
To the WNBA because of the way that the season is set up, because it starts in the spring as opposed to the NBA, the players can get better in the offseason because they have like 6 months before they start playing in the NBA. So it's even more significant that if you're able to just come into the WNBA and be good, that you could look back at their college career a little bit and say, maybe they were a better college player than I thought. For that reason, even though I will say I want to qualify that because some players' skills translate better to the next level because of their height or their speed or quickness or things of that nature. So, like some college players, don't do very well in the pros. They just don't translate. Right. So you can't really go back completely. But I can say you can do that.
Depends on the coach, depending on what team you're on and how you gel with the players and things like that. I mean, they might be traded, and all of a sudden they play better on a different team,
So the reason I'm saying that is because Cailin Clark was 4th in the MVP voting, And she was first team All-Pro, obviously Rookie of the Year. And she put up huge numbers with all these barriers that I'm not going to get into because there's several of them and we've all covered before. Right. And I think you can say and look back at her college career and say, yeah, she was underrated. Look at how well she played in the pros in her first year. I think you can make a little bit of that argument. And I'm making it now. And I think they don't like that fact. So they're going back now and trying to minimize their college career because that's why they're having a discussion right now, right after she got first team All-Pro and right after she got fourth in the MVP voting. They're going back and talking about her college career again. Right. Because they know people are going to say, look, she was as good as we were telling you were back in college. You just weren't listening because you didn't like the fact that this white woman who didn't go to Connecticut was playing great.
Well, they were listening.
Bird saying that because
Mark, they were listening. They saw it coming, but they just didn't want to be like you emphasized, be objective about it. They saw. I mean, if they're freaking pros. They're best. They watch basketball like you and I do. So I mean, they saw how good she was in college, but they just were just kind of well, we can't promote her or push her out there because she's not from like they said, she's not one of us type thing.
Right. The Connecticut Mafia are underrated and minimize Cailin Clark because she didn't go to Connecticut. South Carolina players might be doing the same thing because they've won 2 national championships in the last 3 years. And then other players or other people or the media are minimizing her because she's white. And that's all there is to it. There's not one reason, but there's more than one reason. But they all didn't think a white player could play that well. And guess what? She can.
Yeah. And the whole thing is, like we said before, why are you putting color into it? Just say she's a basketball player. She doesn't care. She's not. Nobody else is emphasizing except for them. Even us. I don't care. I
don't care what color she is. I don't care.
If you were black, I keep on bringing this up. If you were blind and didn't know what color she was, you wouldn't even care. If you could listen to the games, you wouldn't care.
Rob, if she was green or if they were blind, none of ESPN analysts would have a job right now.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be some YouTube haters out there and stuff like that because they would not be objective. And people could tell they're not objective. So that's all there is to it. And that's my take, and I'm sticking to it. And they're full of crap. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of them changing the goalposts and underrating Cailin Clark because she proved them all wrong, whether they want to admit it or not. That's all there is to it. The haters got proved wrong. Just go crawl back into the cave because you were wrong. That's what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And if you think think that, just subscribe to our station.
Hey, if you like this video, hit the like button. But let us know what you think down below about our analysis. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Hit the notification bell when you do so you can notify our next videos.
Don't take my thing, okay? Hey, that's mine.
Don't do this. All right, that's Rob maintains that when he does this finger thing, that's how we get all our subscribers.
That's right.
Okay, all right, I won't touch it. I'll give Rob credit for that. All right, I'll agree with you, Rob. You're the main reason.
That's right. Just the main reason. That's right. I'm following the hill. This is the hill theory here.
And for those who are disappointed that Rob can't always make our Monday night live show, he'll be there this Monday. It's every Monday except for major holidays from 6 to 8 Eastern. So join us for that. You can call in if you want. If you want to donate to that channel, you can with super chats and super thanks down below. And there's a link to PayPal. And we'll see you in the next video.
Peace out.